I would only have been around 9 or 10, but for some reason I have a clear memory of the day my dad bought this copy of Baldur's Gate back in the early 2000s. My video game experience at the time was pretty limited, either playing Pokemon Yellow in the back of the car or watching Dad play Age of Empires. Anyway, it turned out to be a pretty significant moment in my life, so when the game turned 25 years old a few weeks ago, I decided to take some time exploring the history and the legacy of one of the most influential and, in my opinion, one of the best computer role-playing games ever made. So it's late 1995. The PlayStation has just been released, Toy Story was blowing up at the box office, and somewhere in Edmonton, Alberta, a small team known as BioWare began development on a demo called Battleground Infinity. At this point, BioWare hadn't released any games. The company was less than a year old, but their first game, Shattered Steel, was nearing completion, and it was released the next year. With Shattered Steel out, the young team shifted their focus to Battleground Infinity. And after showing their demo to the publisher, they were told that the game would really work well with Dungeons & Dragons, an IP that Interplay just so happened to have the license for. BioWare began expanding the demo and changed the name to Forgotten Realms. It was a dream project for BioWare. The founders had first started developing Battleground Infinity because they really liked the idea of computerizing traditional pen and paper role-playing games. And now they were working on a computer game for the most famous role-playing game of all time. The game took 3 years to make, and during this time it was renamed again, but this time the name stuck: Baldur's Gate. It's important to reiterate how untested this team was. It really was a bit of a gamble giving this massive license to this relatively inexperienced team. They'd basically only released one game, and the founders had really not spent much time in the industry. In fact, of the 6 founders, 3 of them still had day jobs as doctors, having only graduated from medical school a few years earlier. But the gamble paid off, and on the 21st of December 1998, the game was ready to ship. Before we get onto the release though, I just want to quickly talk about my personal experience with this game, because it really means a lot to me. Like most people my age, there is a handful of video games that I spent a lot of my early teens playing, and they have a really important place in my heart, especially the ones I associate with my dad. But I think Baldur's Gate is the only one to have a really long-lasting effect on my life, as I kind of credit it as the reason I got into Dungeons & Dragons, which is now one of my favourite hobbies and kind of a big part of my personality. It should be said that I was aware of D&D before Baldur's Gate because it was such a big part of my dad's life, but it was Baldur's Gate that really got me hooked, although not straight away. I played Baldur's Gate a lot when we first got it, as evidenced by the awful condition of these game discs. I even remember one year when I was asked what I wanted for my birthday, saying that I didn't want any presents, I just wanted a whole day playing Baldur's Gate. Anyway, eventually new hobbies and new video games got my attention, but I cycled back to Baldur's Gate a few years later and started doing a completionist run through. And it was during this time that I got really interested in the lore and the setting. I spent a lot of time on the Forgotten Realms wiki researching characters and places that were never mentioned in the games. I started buying Forgotten Realms source books and novels so that I could learn more about the world, and started becoming an editor on the wiki myself, expanding the articles with extra information wherever I could. This slippery slope eventually led me to the kind of weird situation where I owned a stack of D&D books and I knew an immense amount about the lore and the setting, but I'd only actually ever played a couple of D&D games here and there. So anyway, about 2 years after my wiki editing hyperfixation, I found myself at university making loads of new friends, and it turned out that a lot of them actually wanted to play D&D but had never had the chance. All of my D&D learning finally had a practical purpose. We started a new group with me as the DM and pretty much played every single week for 2 years. By the end of university, I was regularly DMing 2 groups and several other groups on and off. It was amazing, and I'm so glad that I got to do it. It led to many long-lasting friendships and also helped keep those friendships going after graduation when we all went our separate ways. Thanks to Baldur's Gate, I have found so much connection. At first, it created connection with my dad, as it was probably the first game that we both started playing and both enjoyed playing at the same time. Then later in life, thanks to Baldur's Gate, I found my people. Initially in the form of an online community of wiki editors who I still reach out to occasionally, and then eventually to a handful of deeply important connections and relationships I made at university that still bring me joy to this day. So that's why Baldur's Gate is so important to me. But how did the rest of the world react when it was released in 1998? Well, the short answer is phenomenally well. Despite pretty low expectations for the game, it was a massive overnight success. The initial run of 50,000 copies sold out immediately, launching it straight to number 3 in the US game charts the week it was released. And 2 weeks later, it was number 1. It also reached number 1 in France, Canada, Germany, and even the UK, where Interplay's London office had literally predicted 0 sales on game's release. The game was a huge success for a number of reasons. Obviously, marketing and the use of the Dungeons & Dragons brand was massively helpful in getting people initially interested in the game. But what kept people playing and recommending it to their friends was the gameplay and the story. The game was just really fun. The combat was designed to be turn-based but feel real-time, which is no easy feat. Players could choose to play the game in real time, where the fast-moving rounds would cycle quick enough that it felt like a dynamic real-time game, if they wanted, but they could also take a slower turn-based style by frequently pausing and giving orders to their characters in the middle of the battle. Although Baldur's Gate didn't invent pausable real-time combat, it was implemented in such a way that after Baldur's Gate, this kind of system was widely used by all kinds of similar games, and is still used in computer role-playing games today. The addictive fun and replayability was also due to a deeply engaging story, populated with hundreds of engaging characters that all felt alive and fitted perfectly into the sometimes scary, sometimes emotional, and sometimes very silly world of Dungeons & Dragons. Some of the characters that first appeared in Baldur's Gate became so popular that they got spin-off stories and became cemented into the wider D&D fandom. The story itself could play out in dozens of ways depending on the choices you made and the companions you chose to accompany you. This meant people would play the game over and over again with different choices to see how they could change the outcome and see which parties were the best ones to use. Baldur's Gate also reshaped the computer role-playing game genre with its visuals. Where most comparable games at the time would use tiles to generate their environments, the Baldur's Gate team went to considerable effort to make sure that each area was one massive and immensely detailed map. Baldur's Gate won dozens of awards from various different institutions, most notably winning Game of the Year for IGN, Computer Games, and RPG Vault. I'm not going to bore you with all the reviews and awards that the game got, but safe to say it went down pretty well. The most glaring evidence of the success of this game is of course all the sequels that it spawned. There was even another sequel released just last year, maybe you've heard of it. It's safe to say that game also did pretty well. But audiences aren't just a fan of the franchise. The original Baldur's Gate game was remastered and re-released in 2012, and by 2015 it had sold over 1 million copies. So although there may not be many firsts associated with Baldur's Gate, it brought together loads of new ideas to create a game that played like nothing else on the market. Not only did this game leave a huge impact on the genre that can still be seen today, it also introduced thousands of people to tabletop role-playing, which in turn will have led to countless amazing friendships and experiences. So thank you Baldur's Gate, I weirdly don't know where my life would be without you. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you want to see more stuff like this, be sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments.
You must gather your party before venturing forth.